So I read a poem by an up-and-coming young black poet named Eric Jones. He released a book called America's Problem Child in 2020, and in his poem, What Would Malcolm Do?, speaking of white supremacy, he wrote, America's longest-running convicted killer, the same person who we watched cripple the work we've worked so hard to get. We're made public enemy number one and expected to pay everyone else's debt. This was deep and thought-provoking. I had to twist up and think about what I had just read, and I came away with a weird conclusion. I kept debating with myself about how I really felt. I was deciding between two equally desired outcomes, and they're best described by black author and queen Kimberly Jones.
There's a social contract that we all have, that if you steal or if I steal, then the person who is the authority comes in and they fix the situation. But the person who fixes the situation is killing us. So the social contract is broken. And if the social contract is broken, why the fuck do I give a shit about burning the fucking Football Hall of Fame, about burning a fucking Target? You broke the contract, so fuck your Target. Fuck your Hall of Fame. As far as I'm concerned, they could burn this bitch to the ground. And it still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.
Yeah, I don't really know which one I want. Do I want revenge or equality? Do I want to know what Malcolm would do, or do I want to know what Martin would do? So the answer to this question's always been easy for me. I'm rolling with this nigga.
If he were made to realize how black people really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromising sweet talk. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't have a house. It should catch on fire and burn down.
Yeah, see, that's the shit that made you fuck with Malcolm. And that's exactly the sentiment most of us feel as black Americans. So they always ask, if Malcolm were here now, would he be down with the Black Lives Matter movement? And the answer is usually a resounding fuck no. But when you see the leader of Black Lives Matter in New York, you could see how it might work.
Black people really need to understand that Democrats are not on their side. Republicans hate us and Democrats are not on their side. All we have is us. Period.
Mr. Governor, chokeholds are banned in most police departments around the country, and they still do it. So pass the I Can't Breathe Act and send them to jail when they deny us medical treatment. Because America was built on blood and it rules by fear. Fuck peace. We on some Malcolm shit now.
Yeah, this motherfucker's inspiring. I mean, look at this nigga. He probably scared the shit out of white people. It's Fox News viewers at home now, like,
what was up with that nigga?
So given the climate we're all experiencing, like many of you, I've wrestled with what direction we should go when this is all over. What are the next steps for us as a people? And while I've always been an admirer of Malcolm, I decided to research the man who had to figure out the very same thing. In 1966, Dr. King shut himself off from the world and rented a hotel room in Jamaica for several weeks. He didn't have access to a phone and accepted no visitors, as he pondered and eventually wrote his last book before death, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? King wrote this book well after the March on Washington and after the I Have a Dream speech and well after the bus boycotts. This was actually right after the Watts riots and the other violent uprisings across the country. This was an older and wiser King who was dealing with an environment that's not much different than what we're experiencing today.
This year, major Negro riots have broken out in Detroit and Newark and about 80 cities and towns all over the country. Already it's become the worst crisis in the country since the Civil War.
Pillage, looting, murder, and arson have nothing to do with civil rights. We will not tolerate lawlessness.
So I decided to read Where Do We Go From Here? And by read, I mean I got the audio book. Fuck reading. So after you get past King's preachy bullshit, because this nigga can talk, you start to see the groundwork for his economic agenda, i.e. his plan for reparations. Now, when it comes to reparations, all we've had is talk. There's never actually been a bill that's been voted on in Congress. The closest thing we have is H.R. 40, and H.R. 40 does not grant reparations. It merely establishes a commission to explore the impact of slavery and then submit proposals on what reparations may look like. Now, that's an important step, so I don't want to discount it. And by important, I mean it's completely bullshit, which is why so many people support it. Generally, every Democratic candidate we've had over the past few years has supported H.R. 40. But few support full-blown reparations with direct payments to the descendants of slaves. Now, that's a piece that's generally missing from most reparations proposal. And it's because they don't want to give us autonomy to make our own decisions. They want to do what they've always done, which is create a bunch of paternalistic programs that they can administer to us. H.R. 40 has been on the books since 1989 and is yet to get a vote, so don't expect any courage from these weirdos.
Should the U.S. also compensate descendants of enslaved people? Do you support reparations for African Americans?
I support H.R. 40.
What about straight cash payouts?
No.
How much you want, Sean? Agree with that? Why don't you agree with that?
Well, first of all, you mean just a check to every African American?
Yes.
Well, then there's a check to every Native American who were nearly wiped out when the settlers first came here. I think the way we go forward is to build America together.
Biden, do you support reparations?
Look, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance. Number one, the reason we're the country we are is because of immigration. We've been able to cherry pick the best from every single continent. The people who come here have determination, resilience. They are ready to stand up and work like the devil. We have 24 out of 100 children in our school today is Hispanic.
What the fuck are you talking about? Bro, did you hear the question? Play it back. Play it back. Did she ask him about reparations?
Vice President Biden, do you support reparations?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, since I haven't spoken on this, got a chance.
Nigga, you thought about that answer?
Number
So only Crazy Lady and Stop and Frisk Guy actually have reparations plans with dollar amounts attached. Now, this might sound like a bad thing, but it's actually not that bad. Because we don't want a reparations bill that gives us the same shit King was asking for in '68. And that liberals have been asking for the last 10 years. Why? Because America's already in a place in which they may very well provide universal basic income or free college in a foreseeable future. So we don't want them to include that in a bill that's supposed to atone for slavery. We want to replace those programs with non-paternalistic programs that support us in other ways. Think REITs, or ownership in the cannabis industry, or ownership of foreign debt. Or, and this is a strong or, just pay the fucking money out in cash. Direct payments to the descendants of slaves. To quote Bob Johnson, former CEO of BET, there's no need to study reparations or slavery. You can go on Google and you can have within an instant hundreds of thousands of articles, literature studies on reparations and slavery. Yeah, what exactly is the commission going to study? This is why we get so frustrated with America. Y'all know y'all did it. Y'all know y'all ate off it. So just pay up on it or we going
to burn this bitch to the ground.
According to the most recent estimates, reparations could cost the United States $10 to $17 trillion. Bob Johnson just recently petitioned the government for $14 trillion. Either way, all of this is just talk unless something gets submitted to Congress for a vote. Other than that, none of this shit matters. But remember this?
So pass the I Can't Breathe Act.
Good, because a couple of days ago this happened.
Fox News alert on Capitol Hill. 2 House Democrats unveiling a bill that would make big changes to the criminal justice system. It would take away federal resources from police departments across the nation and also abolish ICE and give reparations.
Yeah, they want to use the money we save from defunding the police to pay for reparations. Now that's some shit I can get behind. Take a look at the proposal and remember, it's far from a done deal. Stay tuned for a more detailed video on the BREATHE Act, but 2 provisions stand out above the rest. The decriminalization of drugs and the retroactive expungement of drug-related offenses, meaning they're going to send a bunch of us home, and H.R. 40. Now remember, the goal with bills is to load them up with a bunch of shit, that way you can negotiate down. It's up to us to let them know that these 2 provisions are non-negotiable if they want our support. Now I agree with Bob Johnson, I don't think we need a commission to study shit. But if y'all need that to be the first step, then fine, get it done. But it's up to us to call the representatives and let them know to support the bill. All it takes is a phone call, and it's worth it. It's worth the time it takes to look up your rep's name and number and call their office. It's worth it, if for no other reason than this.
We shouldn't have to survive. We need to live. We need to live. My brothers need to live. mother needs to live. I want to breathe. I want to breathe.